All right. Well, we've just had a wonderful, engaging conversation from some very powerful people about social justice. As we all know, we were all undergrads first. And in order for us to continue our legacy and retention, we must reach back, listen to, and involve our current Black students. I heard that come across in several of the comments that were mentioned earlier. This next presentation that you all will be able to engage in and listen to is a set of 3 current African-American students led by the moderator, Cindy Jones, who is representing the University of Alabama Black Alumni Association as the Black Alumni Collective Liaison. She is also representing Old Dominion University Black Alumni Chapter as the Scholarship Chair. Our 3 student panelists represent University of South Carolina and the College of Charleston. Get ready to listen, learn, take action, and as our last presenter just closed us out with, figure out which Avenger you want to be to help our student panelists. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. We are so honored to present to you this Bridging the Gap conversation with these awesome undergraduate alums. I am not going to take up too much time introducing myself because they are going to be the spotlights for the evening. But I am Cindy Jones, and I am a Black Alumni Collective board member. I represent the University of Alabama's Black Alumni Association. I'm the liaison to the Black Alumni Collective. And I also represent Old Dominion University's Black Alumni Chapter, and I am the scholarship chair. And I will allow our awesome panelists to self-introduce themselves. And so I will begin with Ms. Alexander. She can tell us her name, again, her school, and then what her campus affiliation membership organizations are.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Krishna Alexander. I am a current senior at the University of South Carolina. I'm also a student in the Honors College program. I'm a political science major, criminal justice minor on the pre-law track. And here at the University of South Carolina, I serve as the proud president of the Student Christian Fellowship, which houses our gospel choir. I am also the proud vice president of the Theta Gamma chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and a proud member of the Dean Advisory Council here for the Dean of Students.
Awesome, awesome. I'm a proud alum of my undergraduate alma mater's gospel choir. And so I'm so happy to hear that. And I always encourage our students, make sure you get involved because it creates lifelong relationships and connections. Okay, Mr. Jacobs, you are next with your self-introduction.
Hello, everyone. My name is Johnathan Jacobs. I'm a senior double majoring in marketing and human resources with a minor in public relations and advertising. We'll graduate with leadership distinction from the University of South Carolina in diversity and social advocacy come this May of 2023. I have been involved in several organizations here on campus. I am the immediate past pole mark, so maybe more familiar with the term president of the Zeta Epsilon chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. I currently serve on the board of directors in that chapter. I'm also a board member on the Dollamore School of Business Black Alumni Alliance, where I serve as a student board member, a MAP mentor, which is Multicultural Assistant Peer Program, and a plethora of other things such as the president of Diversity Speaks as well.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobs. And Ms. Anderson with your self-introductions.
Hi, everybody. My name's Amber Anderson. I'm also from Anderson, South Carolina. That's how people remember me. I'm a sophomore at the College of Charleston with a major in psychology and a minor in African American studies. And my main 2 involvements on campus are the 1967 Legacy Scholar Program, and I'm also the secretary for the Student Alumni Association.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you all for those awesome self-introductions. This particular question that I want to lead with this evening is the question that all of the panelists have, for the most part, have indicated that they feel most comfortable and strongly speaking to. So let's go ahead and begin. And I will start with Mr. Jacobs. Who or what inspired you to attend your university?
The reason I decided to attend the University of South Carolina was the Dollamore School of Business School, simply because it was the #1 ranked business school in South Carolina. And I knew that I wanted to gravitate towards business, even though I didn't know what I quite wanted to do at that time. I knew I wanted to do business, and our business school has a plethora of majors from marketing to accounting to insurance to real estate, and to our most proclaimed major, international business. And that was more of the reason that I chose the University of South Carolina.
Wonderful. Miss Anderson, who or what inspired you to attend your institution of higher learning?
Okay, so I have a few reasons. My top two relate to like more scholarship programs. So the first one was Spectra, which is basically a summer program for students of color to obtain college credit before you're actually starting the fall semester. So it was an opportunity to meet all kinds of different students of color from all backgrounds, whether it be Black, Hispanic, Asian, anybody really. And also the 1967 Legacy Program. It's a new program, so I was part of the very first cohort. And the goal of it is to recruit and retain Black students at the college. And they give out scholarships. We do professional development activities. So basically those both provided communities specifically for Black and students of color that I didn't get to experience that in middle school and high school. So those were really big deciding factors for my college choice. And then the other two was College of Charleston is right by the beach. We're 20 minutes from Folly and Isle of Palm. So that's definitely was like high on my list because I love the beach. And my last reason would be that it's the furthest school I could go, like it's still in state, so that way I could explore somewhere new while still being able to keep my state scholarships.
Awesome. And Miss Alexander, who or what inspired you to attend your university?
For me, the students and the alumni were who inspired me to attend the University of South Carolina. The University of South Carolina was actually #3 on my list. It was the last. I was trying to be a rebel because my parents are alum and I wanted to go somewhere else. But I came to a camp my junior year, which was a part of the program here called MOST, the Multicultural Outreach Student Team. It's called Summer Seniors, and it's for high achieving African-American students in their junior year of high school to come spend the night on campus. And your counselors for those 4 days and 3 nights that you're on campus are upperclassmen students. And after I attended that camp, I immediately came home and put in my application because those students really just showed me that I had a place to fit here at the University of South Carolina. As far as alumni are concerned, when I decided that the law was what I wanted to have as my career path, I started looking into the University of South Carolina Law School and just seeing the types of alum, even still that are in the state of South Carolina. Our current Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Chief Justice Don Beatty, is an alum of USC Law. And then recently, a great alum, Judge Michelle Childs, who was just appointed to the second highest court in the nation, is an alum of the University of South Carolina Law School. So seeing that I could stay in state and still achieve my dream of going federal or at the state level of a judgeship really just encouraged me to come here.
Awesome, awesome. And these have been such insightful answers, and it's causing me in my mind to envision some other questions that's a bit off script, but I know you're going to be okay. Miss Alexander made a reference to, you know, what the makeup of her high school was. Just out of curiosity, did all three of you all go to high school in the state of South Carolina? And then what was the student body makeup of your high school, whether it was in the state of South Carolina or outside of the state of South Carolina? And I'll begin with Mr. Jacobs.
So my high school was Marlboro County High School. So it was a predominantly Black high school, and the makeup was mostly students that are from South Carolina, even though we had a couple like stragglers that came to our school because we're right there on the North Carolina border. But mostly it was South Carolina students.
Okay, Miss Anderson.
So my high school was predominantly white. I went to T.L. Hanna. And then middle school was also predominantly white. And then elementary school was the only time I really had more of like a predominantly Black or not predominantly white school.
Okay, great. And Miss Alexander, your high school experience?
My high school was also predominantly white. I'm a graduate of Dorman High School in the country of Pauline, Moore, South Carolina, but it was fairly large. So I'm a graduate out of 824 students. Our honors program was also predominantly white. You start that around like the 3rd grade if you start getting into some type of honors courses, and then started taking those college classes once I got to high school. So definitely running in the predominantly white high school. And then of course, when getting into those honors programs, predominantly white as well.
See, thank you. See, you all, see, I know, see, you're stars, because you're just flowing right with my off-scriptness. I'll call them my off-scriptness. One other off-script question as of right now, and I know you're going to be able to answer this. I'm curious in terms of the other African-American students that you graduated, where have you noticed that they have gone to school? Because those of you who will be watching this at the virtual conference, we did not omit students who went to HBCUs. We reach out. And so there is like this added, in a sense, kind of responsibility that we notice as students who choose to go to PWIs or predominantly white institutions, or even minority serving institutions. So I'm just curious, in terms of your peer group that you graduated with among other African-American students, where did you notice that they tended to go to college or university? And I'll start with Ms. Anderson.
So we did not have a lot of Black students or students of color, but for the ones that were there, a lot of them went to Clemson, and I probably would have been pushed into that pool, but like Krishna said, she wanted to be a rebel, I want to do something different, so I didn't go to Clemson. A lot of them went to Clemson, a good bit went to USC, and yeah, I think I'm the only student of color that went to College of Charleston, so most of us went to PWIs, but I have a reason for that if we want to get into that later, but I'll hold it off.
You can go ahead and speak your mind, speak your piece. You can
Okay,
go ahead and
awesome. So I want to say that I believe that happened just because I know a lot of them probably had the same thought processes that I did. I was not knowledgeable about what HBCUs had to offer at the time that I graduated compared to what I know now. So I feel like if we would have been more knowledgeable or would have been presented with more information about HBCUs or minority serving higher education systems, then a lot of us probably would have went to those campuses.
Thank you for that. And Mr. Jacobs, what did you notice among your peer groups in terms of where they chose to go to school?
Mine's very interesting. Our high school class, my graduating class was like, what, maybe 200 students. So it was not even a big school, and even the graduation rate was pretty low. Mostly, I would say any student that's watching this, get education, regardless of what education route you go, a trade school or something out there. But what I found to be was most of our students went to like the technical school, was this Northeastern Technical College in like our hometown area. They'll go through there and maybe go and transfer into an institution after completing like their associate's degree. Far as like most of my peer mates, they went to like HBCUs. Like only 3 of us went to USC. Maybe about 2 went to Coastal Carolina, and maybe like 2 went to College of Charleston. But everybody, the HBCUs that they gravitated towards were like South Carolina State. Some other students maybe have went towards Newberry, and that's all I could think of off the top of my head. But that's where they kind of, most of the students I knew went to South Carolina State. A good bit went to Clafton as well.
Okay. Ms. Alexander, what trends did you notice with your peers coming out of high school in terms of their college or university choices?
My graduating class was actually very diverse. So we're all over the place, I would say. Like Amber said, those 2 main schools that you'll kind of hear, especially in the upstate area, are Clemson and Carolina. So I would say we all kind of split half and half, mostly when coming to Clemson and Carolina. Several of my friends did go to HBCUs and they went out of state simply because of the money offer that they got from that institution, or if they had a band scholarship or something of that sort. So they did go to HBCUs HBCUs. We had several students go straight into the workforce. Dorman High School partners with R.D. Anderson, which is a trade school. So they were already able to graduate with some type of certification, whether that be in culinary or doing hair, cosmetology, things of that sort, esthetician. So several of our students went straight into the workforce, and then also several of our students and some of my friends now serve for the military. So it was very diverse at Dorman.
See, you guys are so awesome. Don't you love being panelists and me as a moderator? Don't you just love this? Okay, so I'm going to actually return back to the script now, but I think we have fun going off script, right? Okay. As an African-American student, because we really wanted to place our fingers on the pulse of what is going on with you all during your undergraduate experience. So as an African-American undergraduate student, what are some of the successes that you have experienced? And then what are some of the challenges that you have experienced? And I'll open this up to everyone, and you can begin with either. You can begin with your challenges, or you can begin with your successes. And so who has that face that, okay, Mr. Jacobs is like, okay, yes, okay, I want to go ahead and begin. So Mr. Jacobs, the floor is yours.
I'll start with like my background, especially like coming from like a predominantly Black high school, then going to a PWI. So that was always like a culture shock to me. So like a good thing I have my own room, I would say that. But when I first got to the university, it was hard like seeing like, wow, I'm the only Black person maybe in like a classroom or something, or just like getting used to that culture. But what I did, and even like some of the accomplishments that I was able to do was learn that I was chosen for a reason. I'm just as talented, I'm just as good as anybody else in the room. And me being like pushing myself up, I'm better than them. Because in a sense, if you're going to stick out, stand out and stand to the front and lead the way. And so that's what I always put my mindset as, and let not like my surroundings define me, but in a sense, build me to be who I am. So like some accomplishments that came out of that was like, I'm a firm believer, if you don't like something, fix it or leave it better than what you can. So what I did now, and we actually planning for tomorrow, is our second A will kick back with more at Dollamore School of Business, which is basically a retention program to keep African-American students within inside of our school, which is the #1 school in South Carolina for business, but showing them more school resources and campus resources, student organizations, free food, and all of that stuff. And it's been able to talk to my Dean Suite officials and develop this program and secure a sponsorship from through Collins Aerospace to present this ideal of what I'm trying to accomplish here, to lead for students to be able to attend and retain them within the school, and let them know like, hey, there's people like you here. You can see the faculty and staff members that look like you here. You can see fellow students. Yes, you may not have that many classes with them, but they're still here. So this was that opportunity for me to leave behind this space, and they'll be able to at least a game together once a year and be like, okay, I have never seen you here before at this event, and you're a business student. So that's what I'm glad that we'll be able to leave behind here at the business school and continue to see it grow in the future years.
That's awesome. Ms. Alexander, do you want to speak to your successes and your challenges as an African-American student throughout your undergrad experience?
Absolutely. So coming into undergrad, of course, as I've stated, I went to a primarily white high school. So I was used to being one of few minority students within my classes, especially within honors programs and things of that sort. So coming to the University of South Carolina, I already knew that struggle would still be in place, but I didn't consider it a struggle. So I came from a high school that the analogy that I use is that it was a clear fishbowl. So when you're in a fishbowl, a fish is in a clear one, you can see everything around you, but you can only go but so far. The university was my ocean. I came here and I was ready to dive in and just go as far as I could go. I have a very supportive family. My parents are my rocks, who told me that I could do anything, and I took that literally. So when I got here, I just went in head first. Freshman year was kind of difficult simply because we were all struggling through COVID as students. I came in during 2020. So struggling through COVID, administration, faculty, staff, and adjusting, but still trying to find where I fit. And then once I got here, and of course the university started making adjustments, going hybrid, and then now we're back fully in person, just finding my niche. So especially being in the pre-law program and being a minority there, just like Johnathan said, realizing that the sky is not even the limit. You can go beyond there, and that I have everything that it takes in order to succeed. The university, thankfully, is very supportive. Of course, as we'll get to probably later in this panel, having the Black Alumni Council and seeing that you do have successful alum who have gone through that same struggle and have gone through more difficult times, I would say, than what I faced on my campus. We just recently honored a few women through the Backbone documentary that was produced by our current student, Hannah Joy White, who's at the London School of Economics, honoring Black women who have paved ways here at the University of South Carolina. So I had a really good insight that I wasn't alone in this quote unquote struggle and that I could succeed.
Awesome, so inspiring. Ms. Anderson, do you want to speak to your successes and your challenges as an African-American undergrad?
Yes, most definitely. So I have an experience similar to Krishna. So I came from a predominantly white high school, and CFC is a predominantly white college. But I've also had a positive experience. Like, I enjoy being here, which is, I think, kind of unique for me compared to my peers, because like even like my roommates or my friends, they don't have the same experiences that I've had. And I think a lot of the good experiences I've had are due to the communities I've immersed myself in. So like, I also have I'm a psych major, so I'm oftentimes the only Black person or student of color in the class, but I'm also an African American studies minor, which happen to be, those classes are predominantly Black or other people of other races. So I get like that blend, that mixture that I'm looking for. And then also the legacy program is just for Black students. So I get that time to like study Black history with them, or if we're just having a hangout, or they'll take us to, we have the Gaylord Center down here. It's like a performance center, and we'll go and watch just different art performances. Like, we listened to a symphony last week. So we'll be able to like do those things together. And so that really enhances my experiences. So I would say mine has been actually very positive compared to other people I've talked to.
That is so awesome. And I just keep hearing all these different, familiar threads. I heard gospel choir, and then I heard African-American studies minor. My first degree is history, and my minors were African-American studies and American studies. So I'm just really, really loving this panel experience. Another off the script question that these awesome answers have like enlightened me about, and I know you're going to be able to ace this: who or what makes up your support network? Because I kind of heard that in some of your responses. And we're hoping that the Black Alumni Collective, one day you will name that to be among part of your support network. But who, and I've heard different references to your answers, but if you can just kind of sum this up, who or what makes up your support network? Ms. Alexander?
Well, I'll start at home first, and then I'll move to where I like university and career path wise. But from home, I am the only child. So my mom, Krishna Alexander, my dad, Earl Alexander, my 3 grandparents that are still living, my Mimi, my Poppy, my Nana, and my Papa. Those are the 4, but really just my immediate family. They make up my support system. Gratefully, I have administrators from my time at Dorman High School, Spartanburg County School District 6. I just have to shout them out because they're amazing. I am a proud product of my home school, District 6, so I wouldn't be here without them. So they still continue to support me to this day, my teachers and my administrators, all the way to the district office superintendent, whose son actually attends here at the University of South Carolina as well. But moving to the university, I proudly will say that the Black Alumni Council supports me. I have many alum that still check in on me after meeting them at several events. Mr. Grimes, who is watching, was one of the first who took me under his wing and introduced me to other people in the alumni network. So still as an undergraduate student, I've been blessed to have those opportunities. And then here on campus, the University of South Carolina really does have great support systems when you start to work within your organizations and your network. So not only from my sorority of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, my gospel choir and my director, but just making that village while you're in school and your undergraduate years, it really does make a difference. So once I found my community, they also serve as my support system as well.
Awesome. Mr. Jacobs, your support network. Who's your support? Who or what makes up your support network?
Well, of course, mom, dad, brother, and all of them family. But I keep it like focusing here since this is like my second family since I'm away from home now. Like, of course, I'll say my peers, like students I see on a regular day. Like me and Krishna run into each other all the time. It's like, what's up, Krishna? What you been up to? I ain't seen you in a minute. So it's like we support each other like respectfully, organization-wise, and just personally, like just knowing each other, because we know like at a PWI, like seeing somebody with a familiar face is always good. I will say, like she said, our Black Alumni Council is amazing. Shout out to Mr. Randy Grimes again. I remember I met him at our summer seniors when I was a counselor, and we just started talking from there. And even when the Dollamore School of Business started launching their Black Alumni Alliance as a steering committee that I was on at the time, still on, Mr. Grimes was a key kind of guy to help us like, okay, y'all should think about this and this, and help us build our rapport for students to go to. I would say like faculty and staff that I have encountered throughout the campus as well by being involved and getting to know people like Julian Williams, who's the head of DEI vice president of DEI for our entire university. Tiara Dungy, who's at Dollamore School of Business. And even like my own supervisor, who actually retired last year for our Office on Alumni Engagement, Mary Ruffin Childs, and she wasn't even African American. I think that's a key point, and making sure you can find an ally that doesn't, in a sense, look like us, but also is an ally to our community, because I have had so many doors open because of that amazing woman by going to the Ritz-Carlton for business leadership dinner within our school and meeting so many respectful and powerful alumni that come through our business school, but as well as cross campus.
Awesome. And Ms. Anderson, who or what makes up your support network?
So I would say my dad is definitely my backbone, because something he's always told me since I can remember, he's like, long as you're doing the right thing, I'm gonna support you. So I've been doing that, so that way he's been supporting me the whole time in whatever way that can be. Like, we talk on the phone at least once every day. So he's like always consistently there, always present. And then the 1967 Legacy Program, y'all probably gonna hear me talk about that a lot tonight, because that's just been like a big thing for me. And so Dr. Frazier is the program coordinator, and she basically, anything we need, we can go to her for. And she put the entire, well, I won't say entire, but her brainchild. The Legacy Program was her brainchild. So it's just such a great atmosphere that they create for us, and the people that are involved, like, it just brings in a whole bunch of faculty from all over the campus. The president of the school, we get to interact with him because he was also a part of creating the program. And then how, like Johnathan said, other people that can be your allies. I met this lady named Margaret Seidler, and I met her. I didn't meet her directly through Legacy, but she's become more involved with Legacy over time. And just different things that I've learned from her have inspired me a lot with her, what she's involved in, because we're also, as Legacy Scholars, we get membership to ASALA, which I don't know if y'all might have heard of it or not. It's the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. And that's another great connection. Jerry Harris, he's the Charleston chapter president, but he's also involved with Legacy. So like just different people from the community as well as the school. It's just a whole, like, everything kind of just ties together here at CFC. So that's like something I really like about the school too, because no matter what faculty you talk to, they're most likely going to help you. They're going to ask you, like, what can they help you with? So definitely, it's honestly just a lot of people here, I would say, for me.
Awesome. Yes. And I have presented before at an ASALA conference as a historian. My first time ever going to the state of Ohio in Cincinnati. It was in September and the weather was perfect. So that was a really nice experience and then I walked across the bridge and went into Kentucky. And so that just had all the historical meaning because of the Underground Railroad Museum and all that. So I just love it. Gospel choir, ASALA. I mean, see, you all are just speaking my language this evening. So I love this. I love this. I love this. Okay, we are going to return to the script. I want to ask you, and we've already begun to talk about who or what makes up your support system. And ideally, we would love for the answer to be your Black Alumni Association. More specifically, Ms. Anderson, how can Black alumni assist with recruitment and retention at your college?
So at my school, I say there's definitely a lot of room for improvement, just because we don't have that same tight connection that I've heard y'all speak about. And of course, everything takes time, everything takes work. So there's no negativity in what I'm about to say at all. But recruitment, so something that I see is lacking at my school is community outreach. And this goes on all levels, not just Black alumni, but the school as a whole as well. But we don't really see CFC going to the local high schools here in Charleston. And I feel like if we have Black alumni doing those type of community outreach things, it can increase the diversity numbers here as well, because CFC is right around 10 or less than 10% students of color, but the city of Charleston is 30% POC. So there's like a discrepancy between that. So I feel like if Black alumni help with community outreach things, we could reach more students in the area. And then retention, I feel like if we had more Black alumni present at campus events. So like we do like new student events for like the first 4 or 5 weeks of the school year. And so like even if we just have like a table for Black alumni so that people can like visibly see Black alumni here at the school, it could make them more comfortable, make them more engaged. And also I was thinking of like we could create some type of mentorship program that's campus wide instead of limited to different organizations, because I technically have a Black Alumni Council mentor through the Legacy program, but I've only spoken to her like once or twice maybe, so that's somewhere that could be improved. But I only have that connection because I'm in Legacy, so I'm thinking about other people that aren't involved in these organizations. Like there could just be some type of general campus wide like mentor mentee connection, so that way even just like meet once or twice a year, I feel like that can make a big difference, just to see somebody that's already been here and walked through the same places that we're trying to get to.
Thank you for your thoughtfulness. Ms. Alexander, and just in a sense, kind of building upon that particular response from Ms. Anderson, you mentioned that you want to speak to what you would like to see emerge or continue from your Black Alumni Chapter or Association. And it could be scholarships, internship opportunities, mentor-mentee relationships, but what would you like to see emerge or continue from your specific Black Alumni Chapter or Association?
The Black Alumni Council here at the university is, I say, phenomenal. They really are. So continuing to do what they've been doing by showing up to these events like we have, like Johnathan said, we met Mr. Grimes at Summer Seniors. So showing up to these student events for these undergrad students that potentially will be coming to the university, and even sometimes coming to campus when we, as current students, I don't think that we see them as often during the school year. And granted, we understand that because they are working individuals and they have jobs and lives just like we do. So, you know, you've graduated from the university, which is why you're not there, but coming to those events and being present there is something that I would love to see more of if possible. And then of course, like you said, Ms. Jones, just having the internships, mentor and mentee relationships, it's not something that I know that's established. I know that you can have someone that might take you under their wing, but to my knowledge, I'm not familiar with how that would work for another student. I say that Johnathan and I are very similar as we're go-getters. So if we see someone or we know someone that is, you know, going to help us in a way that we may need, we're going to go talk to them and we want to approach them and tell them about ourselves. But there are other students that may not know about that process or how to get in contact with Black alumni. So something that could be set in stone for those students that might not see them at certain events. As student leaders, Johnathan and I both get to attend events and see these great alumni in action. So for those students that may not have that opportunity, definitely just providing an outlet for that to happen.
Awesome, awesome. And this is just some really helpful and beneficial insight that all of you all are providing. Mr. Jacobs, and all of these particular questions and responses are all just interweaving just beautifully. In your assessment or estimation, what do you consider to be a successful Black alumni chapter or association? So one that's really winning, like what particular qualities? Ms. Alexander has talked about it, Ms. Anderson has talked about it, but we talk about, because we want to be relevant. As a Black Alumni Collective, we're a collective of association and chapters. We want to stay relevant. So in your assessment or estimation, what's a chapter or an association that's winning, that's really speaking to you as an undergrad student?
Well, Miss Cindy, I think you know, because I actually have some expertise in this area for working in the Dollar. So our School of Business Alumni Association. So we have one, that's what I was talking about earlier. We established like our Black Alumni Alliance within. So we have a Young Alumni Alliance board. We just started the Black Alumni Alliance board in the business school, and we also have the regular Alumni Alliance Association. So what I have seen that goes to work both ways, as far as like just alumni general hub networks, like say, hey, all the University of South Carolina alums, we're going to be having a hub network in Georgia, Atlanta, or we're going to be in Texas, we're going to be in Florida, and just networking and just talking to those alumni there. And that's where it kind of starts, by engaging the alumni where they're at. And then you can introduce programs such as the mentoring program, like, hey, so, you know, remember how you came to our networking event, just catching up what's going on in the school? You're looking to get more involved. We starting our networking program or a mentoring program with students here that identify that's similar to you and pivot them back together. I would say that would be a good pipeline to be able to create. And another one I would say, as well as holding a specific event. Like I know the University of South Carolina always have its Richard T. Greener breakfast, and it's like all the alumni here during homecoming, and it's like a scholarship breakfast to raise money, but doing something to that nature similar with just students. So students can, or like some kind of gathering that students can see like, hey, yeah, we're alumni, and maybe even having like, it just depends on their backgrounds and their what their careers are, career fair, and like, hey, I have these opportunities available. You are from my school, you identify as a Black student as I was. I want to be able to give you this opportunity. That way, because at the end of the day, the university did them right by helping them graduate, but it's the alumni jobs to help us graduate, but be in a better place or be in that seat at the table faster so we can matriculate higher and bring the next generation to the next step.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. One of the questions that I wanted to pose is, this particular idea was, in a sense, the vision of meetings that we have from the collective. You know, we have planning committees, we have core committees. We take the time to really be thoughtful and intentional about what our conferences are going to look like. So this particular conversation, Bridging the Gap, we really want to be intentional about recognizing that we do need to maintain a bridge between alum and current students. So this particular conversation is the result of that. I really would love your thoughtful insight on next steps, because we're having this awesome conversation this evening, and those who are attending the conference virtually will have a chance to witness just this awesomeness, this Black excellence through conversation this evening. But I really want to know, what are your thoughts about what's next? Because as a collective, as a community, as a people, we don't want to just talk. You know, we actually want to walk what we're talking. And so I'm really, really curious to hear your thoughts on what should be next. Should we intentionally have a discussion every quarter, semi-annually, annually? Should we have a meetup? Should we have a cookout? Should we have a dinner? Should we, you know, I really want to hear your thoughts, because we know that what we're doing now is not in vain, and that it is a seed for tomorrow. But I'm really curious as to, what do you feel like should happen after this panel discussion? After this panel discussion, after this virtual conference, after the conference in Charleston, between the Citadel and the College of Charleston, what are your thoughts on what you feel should happen next? And I will open the floor to whoever just has this awesome idea that's burning on the inside. But what do you think should happen after this conversation?
Go ahead, Amber, because I saw your hand first.
Okay, so I'm gonna say for CFC, I feel like first our Black alumni need to like consolidate more, because I've been to, I think I might have been to 1 or 2 Black alumni events because of Legacy again. And I feel like well, for one, I know there weren't as many people there that should have been there, that could have been there. And that could be due to a variety of things, because I know a lot of alumni from CFC didn't have the greatest experiences here. So that could definitely be an issue for why they don't want to come back. And so I feel like the first step for us would be somehow getting those alumni to come back together and like communicate with each other. And then once they build a solid foundation with them, and I could be wrong in this, I don't know, other people, alumni might have a better view, but from my view as a student, I feel like they have to come together first. And then after that, then there could be some type of, I think a mentor-mentee thing would be a really good thing here, just because our Black student population isn't like super huge. So I feel like it would be feasible to start with something more individual, like individualized contact with between students and Black alumni. So yeah, those would be my 2 things: consolidation, and then somehow starting to reach out to current students.
Now, Miss Cindy, the cookout did not sound too bad. One way to always get undergrad students is to offer food, and you will see them come out of the woodwork. But to that, I, like Amber said, it depends on your school. So personally, for the University of South Carolina, while I feel like their outreach is already great, maybe some things that we could see from USC in particular could be leadership workshops, trying to invite students and build them in certain ways, or just different ways for them to pour into students. If the university, the Black Alumni Council did do a mentor-mentee, one thing that I would suggest for all universities is to make sure that the individuals involved in this mentorship process or program want to be mentors. This is more than just talking to a student and seeing, what a student is doing, what their major is. This is literally a time to pour and support that student for the rest of their journey until they get their degree. And so it takes a good bit, because I don't think, in my experience of being in a mentor-mentee relationship, oftentimes people don't understand the needs of students, and sometimes students don't know how to communicate that need. And so personally speaking, it's just taking the time not only to check in on them and see how their exams are going, but seeing who you can put them in contact with. Yes, you can only lead a horse to water, you can't make them drink, but giving them those contacts and putting them in position so that they can flourish in whatever their major career path will be. So I will say that as far as mentor and mentee programs are concerned, but definitely just having a time, not only are we thinking professionally with these organization events, but even if here at USC, like they show up during homecoming, this is a great time for us to meet our alum and see what they're doing, but also similar to like when we're in high school, what students see when we're talking to alum, we oftentimes are introduced to them in their profession. So we don't really get to know them as a person. So coming to those events where we see them outside of a suit and tie, outside of a dress and heels, but seeing who they really are, I think would be key in getting undergrads involved, especially with this next generation.
I see hey Hannah, Amber, go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. All these ideas just start coming. That's the other thing I meant to say. We don't have a homecoming at CFC. So I feel like that's a big gap too, because we don't have the opportunity to see everybody like in their natural element, like you were saying. We do have a Charleston affair, but only way you can go, or only people that do go, are alumni. So it's not even a chance for undergraduates to bond with alumni. So that's why I think for here, we got to start, like we have to like start from scratch basically, because we don't have those type of things in place where we can come together that way.
What I would say is, for like the people that are watching or are going to be tuning in that are alumni, we need to do an assessment and see like what each school is doing that works and what each school doesn't that doesn't work. So we can all communicate amongst each other. Like, as she said, she doesn't have a homecoming, so I can't really speak on too much of like what they may can do, but maybe a different school in another state or wherever can talk about, hey, this is what we do since we don't have homecomings. This is how we engage with our students, and this is how we able to stay engaged with them. Sending out, I'll say, surveys, as well as what could they possibly like see, like who's school, like figuring out what schools are doing right and communicating it amongst like, okay, let's make sure we build upon this initiative. And even going back into the mentorship program, like even like what our school just started when I had a hand in was making sure we develop like talking points, because like we said when we was creating ours, students not going to be like, some of them are not as charismatic, or some might be a little bit more shy or pull back, but finding interesting talking points, like, yeah, like, hey, let's talk about resume, but let's also talk about what you do on your regular job days, what you may do outside of your hobbies. Even going back in time, like 10 years ago, where were you at? Like, what was you usually doing on a day-to-day basis, just to build that relationship. And I also say, what should be next? Getting a voice from the student communities, because there's always needs to be a liaison that can represent the students to a certain degree, that the alumni know what they need, but the students also know what they need, because alumni can do so much. You remember, alumni is a span of time. So like everybody's experience is different, but what do the campus students need now is the main point that they can help. So making sure that there are voices at the table that are students, so we know, so that there's a know, like, what do they need.
And to add on to that, before we go back to Miss Cindy, because I know you have more questions, I will say, taking the time to explain to students what the Black Alumni Collective and the Black Alumni Council are and what they have to offer. Oftentimes when we come into undergrad and we hear the word alumni, I will be quite honest with you, when I first got here, first thing I heard was money. All we're doing as alumni are helping to sponsor scholarships and give things back to our students. But truthfully, once I got acquainted with those alum through the Black Alumni Council and other alumni here in the Carolina community, it's so much more than that. So taking the time to explain to students what all they have to offer and ways that other students, because just like the three of us on this panel, we're making our way through our college experience and we're thriving, and I'm excited to see that as well. But there are other students who may not be in the position that we're in, other students who may not have had that experience. So while we're giving, Amber said at College of Charleston, it's a little bit different. Here at the University of South Carolina, we've had things to say about ours, but just hearing the different student perspectives, I think is great. So students that may not be technically a part of certain programs or organizations, certain scholarship opportunities, and just getting the full story before they start to make those crucial decisions.
And I add one more point to Krishna. I'll say strategic plan is important. Like, you have your tactical stuff as well, but make sure you have a plan, because the goal is to pipeline these students into successful careers, but to pipeline them to be members of this alumni association. So creating that pipeline by building that remorse and that relationship with them while they're young, freshman, junior, sophomore, or whatever, so that they have it. And then by the time, like, oh, I can remember, like, my mentor helped we'll talk about sponsorships later. Sponsorships, mentorships, those are a little bit different, but my mentor helped me connect with somebody here and helped me get that job there. I remember that feeling, and I want to be able to
being very interesting, but sometimes we get backlash from people in our own community. I've received backlash and been told, well, why did you choose to go to the University of Alabama? Because why did you choose to go to school with white people? But knowing our history, there were people who sacrificed everything for us to be able to choose to go wherever we chose. So I'm just curious, and this is how we'll end our conversation. And I thank you all for your awesome ideas and thought and insight. But I'm just curious if you've received any of those types of negative assessments of your choices to go to college or school. I see Ms. Anderson.
Okay, so bring up legacy again. So the program is called 1967 Legacy because 1967 was a year of integration here at the College of Charleston. And CFC was one of the last, if not the last, college in the state to integrate. So a lot of things that I've learned have been based around how even we didn't have an African American Studies program until the 90s here. So even just the fact of me being an African American Studies minor, which I'm thinking about bumping to a double major, which I'm really considering now because our program is still growing. And so it's a matter of just being present is a big thing, because so many people, like Dr. Frazier, the program director, she was part of the group that got our African American Studies program started. So me taking those classes, or we're in the process of hiring new people, they asked some of the students to come to the hiring process because we just need people to be there to support the program. So it's things like that with classes. What else? I'm gonna let somebody else go because I just lost my train of thought, but I'm gonna add some more at the end.
I will say that I've definitely received backlash. Of course, I have family and that went to HBCUs, and my family, of course, has been very supportive. And I support hands down their mission and what they do and what they provide. Personally, with what I wanted to study, I just felt that USC was a good fit for me. And when I came here, of course, I had the understanding that not only am I going to a school that's just here about an hour and a half away from home, but we go to the flagship school of our state. And if anyone knows anything about the South Carolina history, we know it has not been the prettiest, especially for people that look like us. Going back to integration at the University of South Carolina, it was in 1963, to be exact, September 11th, 1963 for us. And it was we understand that our people, Black kids had to struggle, Black students had to struggle here on this campus. And so just like you said, Miss Cindy, people gave up everything. And had to still go through heck and high water while they were here in order to make it and receive their degree, and probably still didn't receive some of the things that they deserved. But here in my time since coming to the university, I've had the mindset that it's community over competition. And I'm thankful for being in the Honors College program, which has also instilled that in me. But having those examples of people that have gone before me, of course, going back to alumni, seeing my parents who have thrived after they received their degrees from here, just knowing that while there still will be setbacks, there are, of course, ways that the university can still improve. None of our campuses are perfect, but that's the entire purpose of continuing to see diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's why we have people in place that are working countless hours. As Johnathan said, our vice president of the DEI office, Mr. Julian Williams, is working all the time to make sure students like us, our voices are heard. And so I appreciate conversations like this from the Black Alumni Collective that make sure that they're doing their part, because they know people that will be watching this, your stories are probably way different than ours. Your experience is way different than ours. So we appreciate you all taking the time just to make sure that we're thriving. This is the next step, Ms. Cindy. This is the step in the right direction, because you're hearing what we have to say in ways that we can improve, and even giving us feedback on what we as students can do during our time here. I think it's not just a one-way streak. It's just, us all working as a collective, literally, to make that change and to continue to see that change. But I would say, even though we received pushback, it's all about just knowing that we can thrive no matter what. Our history has proven that. So that's what I would say about the University of South Carolina in particular.
I would say Christian touched literally everything, even going back to hearing incidents and stories, especially at the PWI from my fraternity brothers, and being the first NPHC chapter on our school campus, and how threatening lawsuits and facing backlash and everything that you could think of that a person of color will experience at a PWI. But also what I learned is, when you hear those stories and you hear their experiences, you sit down and you kind of wow, I'm honored, because by you going through that and dealing with that and being able to fight against discrimination and all these other things, you made me realize you fought for me to get here, and it's my job to continue to fight. Because I can't remember who quite told me this, but they said the wise people always guide the younger minds on that more physical manpower, their voice, because at the end of the day, institutions are ran by the students. We're the ones paying our dues and everything for everybody else's job. So when we use our voices the right way, by seeking mentorship, by seeking advice, and by listening to their wisdom of our alumni, we can help them when at a time when they didn't quite know everything, but at that level now, strategically put the university in the right direction for Black students on campus.
Definitely. And I just wanted to conclude this powerful discussion with an affirmation. That's part of my language, is words of affirmation. So just, indulge me. I just wanted to just affirm everyone here on this panel. And I wanted to just remind you that you are witnessing the impact of those who walked before you, and that you are inspired by legacy, and then you are also building and creating a legacy yourself. And since we are focusing this year's conference on the state of South Carolina, I'm reminded of Miss Asia Wilson, who is an accomplished basketball player, who the university honored her with a statue. And I was just so touched by this honor of Miss Wilson, because she recalled, I believe it was her grandmother, that used to have to walk around the perimeter of the campus and was not even allowed to walk through the campus because of the color of her skin. And so for her, as a young African-American woman, to have a statue built in her honor at the University of South Carolina for all that she has contributed and deposited into that women's basketball program, I'm of the fact that we are being a part of the change that we wanted to see. So I want all of you all to remember that. I want you to remember that you are change makers, that you are trailblazers, that as much as you are inspired, you are inspiring others. And I hope that you battle against imposter syndrome and that you do deserve to be where you are and that you are on your way somewhere, that your life has an awesome purpose to it, that you are a world changer. And so I am just honored to be in your company as your moderator. And I am excited about what the future holds for you. And we hope that this conversation is just the beginning of an even stronger connection with the Black Alumni Collective. So thank you on this winning Wednesday. I named my day. So this is a winning Wednesday. So thank you for your time, Ms. Anderson, Mr. Jacobs, Ms. Alexander, Mr. Grimes, Ms. Fletcher. I mean, everyone who has worked so hard, so many emails in the email thread, but we thank you. We thank you for just your time and your insight. And we are hopeful that we're going to even higher levels. So anyone have any closing words? I've said my affirmations, but Ms. Anderson, you have something?
Yes, I'd like to thank you as well, Cindy, for being our moderator and asking us great questions. And then also I was wondering, could you possibly put your link to your LinkedIn like Johnathan did? Because I was having trouble finding you on LinkedIn.
Will do.
Just reiterating, Amber, thank you again, Ms. Cindy, for just being the great moderator and the positive light that you are. We thrive as students by getting to interact with great people such as yourself. So it's been an honor to share this platform with you. To Amber and to Johnathan, it's been my pleasure to be here with you all this evening. You all are great. And it excites me just to see what my peers will be in the future as we enter into this workforce, and knowing that I have people that I can turn to who not only want to thrive in their careers, but want to see their university do better, because it's up to us to pour back into those students that are coming after us. We might not be alumni yet, but we have the mindset of what we want to do once we reach that point. So it's been great meeting you. And of course, Johnathan, seeing you since we go to the same school.
Yeah, it is great. I see. Look, I haven't seen. I think it's probably been a couple of days. We're getting off track, but no, thank you again, Miss Sydney. You was a great moderator. It just flowed naturally. You knew us. You know, you had the vibes, right? Like we like to say. But yes, you got a main point. Like I'm honored and humbled to have this opportunity, and always open to like seeing how I can help and what foot I can take to help support. Because at the end of the day, we have to uplift the next generation of leaders. And that's what any of us should want to do, because if we don't do it, who else will, to a certain degree? So we have to make sure that we have to do what we want to do for our communities and for our universities and play our parts. And like even the greatest singer of all time said, I believe that children are the future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Miss Whitney Houston, by you all teaching us, being mentors, and just communicating with us and helping us guide to be able to do what we can do to the next generation to help them grow.
Awesome. Thank you all. Ms. Anderson, I will be in touch on LinkedIn. I will.
Connect with me too.
I will. Thank you all. This has been an awesome, life-changing and empowering and inspiring conversation to be continued. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, there are a few words for us to say after that. I believe we have some work to do. I know the College of Charleston, I was on the recording of that session listening in, and I couldn't write fast enough, so I just stopped. I said, I know when it comes on today that I'll be able to take lots of good notes, because I was just involved in listening to what those young people had to say. So I know that you all have been sitting for a little bit, and we have one more session left. We're trying to make sure that we can keep everyone on track because we know it's a Saturday and you all are very, very, very busy. So we will start back at 1:50. Please feel free to get a stretch break. And if you are interested in helping or connecting with those 3 young people or any others with internships or ideas or ways in which to help, please reach out. You can put your information into the question Q&A section and I will find a way to connect with you all. Thank you and enjoy your little break.